So with the upcoming Rep Paladin rework, I thought it was a perfect time to throw the idea for an Enhancement Shaman rework. I mean, come on, Enhancement Shaman and Rep Paladins were always the brothers of WoW. They were both faction locked. They both had the same way to deal damage. They both had team support in the form of totems and blessings. Alright, they were always the classes that faced the biggest downhill slopes of just having their uniqueness stripped away and being left in these awkward positions in the meta. So if Rep Paladin's getting a rework, then hopefully sometime in the future, possibly if they are going to push the idea for more reworks, Enhancement Shaman will be one of the probably top 3 or top 2 contending for the next rework. And honestly, I'm going to try and push it as hard as I can because I really want to see this day come through. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about just some ideas I have about a possible rework, going into stuff where our damage can come from, our healing, our totems, and a bunch of other good stuff. So if you are interested in that stuff, then make sure to watch the video to the end. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next live. Peace. So keep in mind, in terms of viability, honestly, all Enhancement Shaman needs is just another defensive, but Blizzard is very not very keen on doing that. They are very strict on what they want shamans to have defensively, so it's probably never going to happen. So until that happens, then the video is going to be made. So the first point I want to talk about is damage. Where our damage, not necessarily where our damage comes from, but where our damage can come from. So right now, our damage really comes from our 2 abilities known as Storm Strike and Elemental Blast, or Elemental Blast and Lava Lash. All right, other classes have multiple ways to do damage, and a lot of their abilities do good damage. Whereas Enhancement Shaman, you only have 2 primary abilities. Again, Storm Strike, Elemental Blast, or Lava Lash and Elemental Blast. And with the Lava Lash build, it is a bit better because your damage charts is definitely a lot more nice. You have Lava Lash up there, you have your Elemental Blast up there, you have your Frost Shocks up there doing good damage, and of course your Flame Shocks just doing okay dot damage, which doesn't really matter because you're not a dot heavy spec, which means any dot damage you do have is not going to be is not going to be significant towards other dot specs because they're actual dot specs. They rely on that. So pretty much point case, all right, your damage is pretty strict on what it needs to be. All right, you only have 2 abilities. So, and that's okay because obviously those 2 abilities are great. I mean, Enhancement Shaman is definitely one of the specs that performs well in terms of not really needing big cooldowns to do okay damage. Other classes really shine when they have big cooldowns, Avatar, Avenging Wrath, Deathmark. And some classes just fall short when they don't have those cooldowns. Unfortunate. So Enhancement Shaman is definitely in that middle where even though your burst isn't that high-end burst, your sustained damage is pretty nice. It's a little bit better than other classes. But that's not the point. The point is where our damage can come from. You have a lot of ways that could do damage if it was done correctly. And one thing I do want to talk about is Crash Lightning. Crash Lightning was one of those abilities, or is one of those abilities that has always been pretty vital for Enhancement Shaman. It's those very niche abilities that only very few classes have, where it's a short CD and has a lot of effects to it. Alright, you see here, the reason why this ability was great is because you got Converging Storms. Converging Storms, each target hit by Crash Lightning increase the damage of your next Storm Strike by 25% up to a maximum of 6 stacks. Now, unfortunately, this got nerfed pretty badly, so now instead of 25% per stack, it is now 10% per stack. So what was a ability that just enhanced your damage overall to obviously increasing the damage of your Storm Strike, now it's kind of like a standalone ability where, I mean, Converging Storms, yeah, it's still increased damage, but like it's not anything as it used to be in previous expansions and literally last week. So now it's kind of a standalone ability, but that could be a good opportunity to actually increase the effectiveness of this ability. So the secondary effect of this ability is this, causing Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Lava Lash to also deal 3,000 nature damage to all targets in front of you, damage reduced beyond 6 targets. This has potential to be good. All right, again, this will fit well with the idea of just having constant damage as Enhancement Shaman, so I would kind of like this. But unfortunately, the aspect of all targets in front of you is something that is really whack because in WoW, again, positioning gets really awkward. If somebody were to literally sidestep, even though they're in my line of sight, my arm is literally matching up against their arm. Like if they're literally like right here, and my now were to Crash Lightning, it still wouldn't hit that guy. Sometimes, most of the time, it's pretty awkward. It's weird. So half the time, 90% of the time, you don't even get the benefit from that cleave damage. All right, it sucks. So how could they change this? Well, they can actually change this by actually just making this as like an actual passive debuff. So what I kind of came up with is a new passive for Crash Lightning known as Static Shock. So hitting 2 or more enemies with Crash Lightning will inflict the targets with Static Shock. Attacking Static Shock enemies with your Storm Strike, Lava Lash, or Ice Strike will deal X amount of damage to all Static Shock enemies within 12 yards, and all enemies near Static Shock enemies within 8 yards. Alright? So that's something I kind of wanted to see, just to have guaranteed damage, so any targets hit by your Crash Lightning will be affected by Static Shock, and whenever you do damage with your Storm Strike, your Ice Strike, or your Lava Lash, whatever other ability that can be affected by Crash Lightning, it'll do damage to those targets regardless, so long as they're in 12 yards, and anybody around those targets within 8 yards. So that's something I kind of thought could be pretty nice with Crash Lightning. Since now it's a standalone ability, I feel like it should have more of an impact on its own instead of just buffing Storm Strike nowadays. Now, I do want to mention that Crash Lightning, for some reason, you can use this while nobody's around you. If I were to use this right here, boom, nobody's around me. So, but the cooldown still occurs. Now, this could have some benefit. Alright, this could be like an ability for other classes that just grants you like an effect. So like let's say a slice and dice for rogues. So there used to be a talent called Crashing Storms that made it so whenever you do Crash Lightning and nobody's around you, it'll kind of electrocute the ground. Basically a whack version of Consecration, but maybe that could come back. So if there's no enemies around you, consecrate the ground, or if there's no enemy around you, maybe do something like increase your auto attack speed. I don't know, auto attack speed is, I mean, it's okay for Enhancement Shaman because again, more attack speed, more chances to proc Winnie Fury. So something like that, some sort of buff or enhancement that you could get while using Crash Lightning, so it has value no matter what you do, which is kind of nice. I think that would be pretty cool. Now, moving on from Crash Lightning, I want to talk about your spenders. You only have one damaging spender, and that is Elemental Blast, which is unfortunate because it does good damage, but there's so much more value, or there could be more value because you have 2 other spenders, Elemental Blast, Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt, but those don't do anything. They don't do any damage. And previously, pre-patch and beginning Dragonflight, your Lightning Bolt actually did good damage because you had a Primordial Wave. Your Lightning Bolts in general did okay damage, but your Primordial Wave Lightning Bolts is what sent the damage higher. Now, unfortunately, your Primordial Wave and your just spenders in general got nerfed, so not only do your spenders not hit as hard anymore, but your Lightning Bolt just hits for nothing nowadays. It doesn't hit for anything. It sucks. And there's no benefit to pressing Lightning Bolt. Why? Because Elemental Blast is just, you get more damage, you get stats from it, it's 2 charges, there's no reason to press Lightning Bolt. Now, in 10.1, the new patch coming to WoW, whenever that's coming out, alright, they are changing it a little bit, so Thorn's Invocation and Ascetic Accumulation are going to affect Lightning Bolt in 2 different ways. If you don't know, check the link down below, and you'll see it'll pop up with the patch notes for 10.1, so you'll see what they're doing. Basically, they're just changing Lightning Bolt a bit with those talents. Now, that doesn't really do anything because it's still not going to have impact, so I kind of what I want to see with Enhancement Shaman Rework is interaction. What does enhancement mean? It means to improve. Improve with Enhancement Shaman, you have a lot of abilities, probably some of the most abilities in the entire game compared to other classes. Make some of these abilities interact with each other. So what I kind of came up with is an ability for Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning to actually work with Lightning Shield. So here we go, I came up with this. Unstable Charge. Whenever Lightning Shield procs, it has a 50% chance to build a stack of Unstable Charge that increases Lightning Bolt / Chain Lightning damage by 5%. Upon reaching 20 stacks, your next Lightning Bolt / Chain Lightning will consume all charges. Your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning will now be instant cast and benefit from all Maelstrom Weapon enhancers. Basically, it'll be instant cast, and you don't need Maelstrom Weapon in order to actually spend this ability or use this ability. And if you did have Maelstrom Weapon, it wouldn't consume those charges. Basically, you just get like a free Lightning Bolt or a free Chain Lightning that'll just do a lot of damage. Maybe as much damage as Elemental Blast or even more damage. Something like that. Because just buffing the damage naturally is something that Blizzard probably won't do. They are doing through Thorn's Invocation. I'll kind of read it off. But yeah, Ascetic Accumulation is going to make it so your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning will have a 10/20% chance to refund the Maelstrom Weapon spend, and of course that goes well with Thorn's Invocation. The Thorn's Invocation is going to buff your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning by what, 20%? Yeah, 20%. So it's interesting, but yeah, just simply buffing the damage of Lightning Bolt in general is something they won't do, other than implementations of those talents. So in my mind, just kind of thought, okay, well, lightning shield is kind of good again, which is pretty nice. So maybe make lightning bolt and chain lightning work or interact with lightning shield. So whenever you get attacked, you build up stacks. When the stacks build up, you'll get an instant cast lightning bolt and chain lightning that'll benefit from all your Maelstrom weapon enhancers, and boom, just a lot of damage every, you know, let's say 20 seconds. You know, because again, it's pretty easy to generate, you know, to get hit by abilities that generate lightning shield procs, because lightning shield just is any damage you take from attackers or melee attacks will instantly proc lightning shield. So it could be pretty interesting. That's what I thought, but obviously could be something different. Now another thing I want to talk about is Storm Blast. Storm Blast is another talent that has potential to do good, but it's just not there. So Stormbringer now also causes your next Storm Strike to deal 25% additional nature damage as nature damage. This is bad. This was okay when you had good converging storm stacks and your Storm Blast or your Storm Strike hit a lot harder, so that would just make your Storm Blast hit harder. But now that that's not in the game anymore, since converging storms is gutted, it's just, there's no value for this. So it's hard to work around this because it's just like a passive, like whoever cares ability. So there are a couple ways I kind of thought about this. So one would be this one's okay, I guess, which is to actually make your Storm Strike just be nature damage. So your Stormbringer will now cause your Storm Strike to deal nature damage, maybe. Obviously that's kind of counteracts certain stuff, because again, if let's say you're fighting a DK and you're just Storm Striking this guy, you get procs. Again, sometimes he has Spell Warden or AMS, and that Storm Strike would just be 8 up. So I don't know. So kind of like a scrapped idea. Another one would be for Storm Strike, it's the same effect basically, but make it so your next Storm Strike deals 50% additional damage as elemental damage. Elemental damage is basically nature, fire, frost damage combined. So maybe something like that. Or even another thought would be to actually have Storm Blast be the elemental core ability. If you don't know what that is, elemental core was a Torghast power, and there are a lot of Torghast powers that are actually good for a lot of classes, and I would kind of like to see some of them be brought back. So elemental core basically made it so whenever you got Stormbringer procs, it'll increase the damage of your Storm Strike permanently by like 3% per stack, up to 20 stacks. And when you reach 20 stacks, your Storm Strike cooldown would be reduced by 50%. So I always love that, and I always thought that could be a cool thought. So not only are you getting just passive increased damage on your Storm Strike permanently, but you're also getting cooldown reduction on your Storm Strikes by 50%. You know, maybe obviously they can change that so it actually has a duration. So, you know, maybe it lasts like 12 seconds or so, and when you reach 20 stacks, the cooldown of your Storm Strike will be reduced by 50% for 12 seconds, something like that. But the way Storm Blast is right now, it's just not that great. So that's kind of what I thought for damage. Obviously, it's not really saying where our damage comes from currently, but where our damage has the potential to come from. So Storm Blast, Crash Lightning, you know, our lightning bolts and chain lightning sitting harder. And I would talk about Wind Fury Weapon, kind of. They did buff Wind Fury Weapon at 10.1, so Wind Fury Weapon is now being increased by 50% of its damage, which is cool. But Forceful Winds is now being nerfed to 20% instead of 40%, so you're losing out on 100% increased damage from your Forceful Winds. So basically the same Converging Storms, Storm Strike, you know, treatment, which sucks. Another thing I do want to talk about is in terms of our damage and healing, this is actually a good, you know, an ability that's just overall could benefit Enhancement Shaman, is the returning of Echo of Elements. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Maybe it's called something different, but it has Echo in it. And Echo of the Elements was an ability in Mists of Pandaria that made it so your damaging abilities and your healing abilities had a chance to duplicate themselves or echo themselves. Basically elemental overload. Now that could be cool. So basically everything could echo your Wind Fury Weapon, your Storm Strikes, your Elemental Blasts, your Healing Surges. But obviously they would have to tune down the numbers, so maybe like 50%. You know, maybe your spells and abilities have a chance to echo for 50% of its effectiveness, or 25%, 40% maybe is what we're working with here. But I feel like that could be something that's good for just not only healing, but, you know, having more damage, having more of that pressure, consistent damage. So yeah, just a small thought, but I mean, I personally love that ability, so if that were to ever return, it'd be pretty cool. But now move on to our next topic. So healing has always been kind of odd for Enhancement Shaman. You know, Enhancement Shaman has always been the epitome of hybrid healing in terms of how much and how many ways you could heal as Enhancement Shaman. Unfortunately, again, just like every other hybrid over the years, Blizzard has just kind of took away what hybrids really were, and are now just kind of like these basically shells of what they once were. Enhancement Shaman is the greatest ideal of that. You had many ways to heal back then, and your heals actually were pretty impactful. And you had a lot of team healing. Nowadays, it's just kind of like, when you have to heal, it's rough, because when you have to heal, you're pretty much automatically set on the back foot. When you're healing as Enhancement Shaman, you're already kind of losing the game. That's when the time bomb starts. Because the only way to win an arena or any bit of PvP you do is, as silly as it sounds, you gotta kill them before they kill you. Because you don't have as much pressure as these guys. You don't have as much damage as these guys. You don't have as much burst as these guys. These guys have MSs, they have constant pressure, they have constant, uptime on you, and have more damage mitigation than you. So the only way to win is, you can't just heal the damage. Healing is like damage. Damage could be healed and healing could be damaged. So if I'm constantly healing, that means I'm not doing any damage. That means this guy is not only doing damage, but he's also building up momentum from whatever stacks or passive effects this guy has. So it doesn't matter if I'm healing, I'm just delaying what's really coming, which is death. So healing is interesting for Enhancement Shaman. Now, back then, as I said, Enhancement Shaman had many ways to heal. You had access to Healing Tide Totem. Healing Tide Totem, just like for Resto Shaman, you had access as an Enhancement Shaman. It didn't do as much healing, but it still did good healing because it's a Healing Tide Totem. Healing Tide Totem has always done good healing. Now, you also had some other stuff known as Ancestral Guidance. Yes, this ability right here. Today's world, this is pretty piss healing. Unless you're running a Lava Lash build and you're getting pretty big hits, Ancestral Guidance is not going to heal for much. The only time Ancestral Guidance actually heals for anything is when you get big healing surges, But other than that, it's not really doing much. So back then, this used to be a lot better. 40% of the damage you did and 60% of the damage or healing you did would be converted to healing onto 3 other allies. That was pretty great. Instead of this piss 25%, it was actually pretty good. Now obviously they might have to tune that down, so maybe 40% of the damage and 40% of the healing would be converted to healing allies, but just what it was back then. Again, this is one of those abilities that in my heart, it's like boomer brain is kicking in. It's like, come on now, like it's piss of what it was before. So that's something that could be interesting to see be reverted. You also had Feral Spirits healing, obviously back in Wrath. Everybody knows Feral Spirits. Your Feral Spirits healed for as much damage as they did. Certain glyphs would increase their attack power, and increase the actual healing they did. So your Feral Spirits would not only just heal for a lot in terms of the actual amount they healed for, your Feral Spirits attacked a lot. They were very fast attackers, so of course you'd be constantly getting healing. But unfortunately, that probably will never return with the way wolves work, because wolves are constantly out literally less than every 30 seconds. So if healing was there, they'd obviously have to tune that down heavily, and unfortunately they'll probably tune it down to piss healing. So unfortunate, but we also may see a return of another talent, which is called Rushing Streams. Again, another talent back in mod. Rushing Streams was an ability that made it so it basically buffed Healing Stream Totem, made it so it affected 2 targets and increased the healing done by 15%. Now, the reason why that would be interesting to see return is because Healing Stream Totem is getting buffed in 0.7. So it's basically going to be getting increased healing from Swirling Currents. So 40% increased healing from Swirling Currents could be pretty cool. Now, obviously, again, it's a totem, which means it is susceptible to just normal totem shenanigans, basically dying in one hit. But maybe Healing Stream Totem can actually pump heals. So seeing the return of Rushing Streams could be pretty cool. And it's unfortunate because, again, our healing is getting nerfed indirectly. Not directly, indirectly. They're moving Focused Insight into your talent node between Refreshing Waters and just a Wolf Affinity. So you're going to have to choose between one or the other. And Swirling Currents is, again, like I said, it's going to buff Healing Stream Totem, instead of actually buffing your healing surges. Pretty sad and pretty unfortunate. Now, there are also just a lot of other ways to heal as Enhancement Shaman. And obviously nowadays it could be a lot better. One thing I really wanted to see changed was Chain Heal. Chain Heal is just one of those abilities that there's no reason for it to be in the general Shaman tree, because it's not affected by anything. Like Lava Burst affects my Elemental Blast, Chain Lightning affects, all classes in some way or form. Alright. But Chain Heal doesn't affect either Elemental or Enhancement. The only way this affects anything is Focus Insight affects Chain Heal, because it affects any healing you do. But Chain Heal is not affected by Swirling Currents, it is not affected by Refreshing Waters, and it is not affected by Swelling Waves. if your chain heal was actually affected by all your healing modifiers, this could be, again, just another way to heal. Your only way to heal right now is Healing Surge. Other classes have multiple ways to off heal, Swift Mend and Regrowth, Wog, and Flash of Light, you know? But Enhancement Shaman only has Healing Surge to heal with. So Chain Heal could have been that secondary healing where, okay, do I want to save myself a lot better, or do I want to help my team with Chain Heal? And it would be a lot better if they could be affected by all your healing modifiers. But unfortunately, it's probably too late because, again, like I said, your healing is getting indirectly nerfed in 0.7. Unfortunate. Now, there's another Torghast power that I wanted to talk about, and I don't remember what it was called. I literally looked it up, and it has a different name than what it actually is. But basically, the effect was standing within 10 yards of a totem heals you for 3% of your total health every 2 seconds. Basically just Spectral Recovery, but as a talent. So that's another way that they can change, let's say, Winds of Valakir. When you have 3 or more totems active, your movement speed is increased by 15%. Maybe it could be changed to this talent, right? Standing within 10 yards of a totem heals you for 3% of total health every 2 seconds. And obviously, if you have multiple totems out, then you're just going to get more healing. All right, so that's something that could be pretty cool. But yeah, Enhancement Shaman has always been the epitome of hybrid healing because you didn't have any way to mitigate damage. So you were the literal embodiment of being distancing from healer to DPS. You were the middle ground. You were the aspiring healer, DPS. So unfortunately, again, just like every other hybrid, you're pruned to the point where your healing just is like, it just doesn't matter. It has no impact on the game anymore. So it is unfortunate to see, but hopefully one day we can see some actual betterment of healing for Enhancement Shaman, be it more ways to heal or the way your healing interacts with certain talents. But yeah, hopefully one day. But let's move on to our next topic. Now this one's probably the most far-fetched idea, and that is the idea of defensives. Now, for some reason, Blizzard is very strict on what they want shamans to have defensively, and I don't know whether they think that's just because Astral Shift is good enough, or your healing counteracts the defensiveness and squishiness, which it does not at all, or they think that adding another defensive is just going to really upset the balance between hybrid healing and, you know, normal DPS defensiveness, which I don't really know. And of course that is pretty much shown with the idea of bringing back Shamanistic Rage. Shamanistic Rage was amazing. 1.5 minute CD, lasted for like 15 seconds. You took 30% reduced damage. You gained mana based on how much attack power you had, and you also could use it in stuns. It was a great defensive, and that's why Blizzard won't add it back into the game, which is sad. So coming up with new defensives is obviously going to be very difficult. If they can't even add Shamanistic Rage back, then what really is there that they could do for Enhancement Shaman defensively? So I came up with something new, which obviously it doesn't matter because if they can't add Shamanistic Rage, then they're probably not going to add any other defensive. But I mean, it's worth a shot. So I came up with the talent Pillars of Stone. Again, this is an ability that has interaction. So Pillars of Stone, 1 minute cooldown. Enhance your active Earth Shield, producing damage taken by 20% and increasing and restoring 3 charges of Earth Shield. Your Earth Shield healing and its healing received is increased by an additional 15% and is undispellable. This effect lasts until all charges of Earth Shield are consumed and usable while stunned. So again, another ability, it's 20% damage reduction. 20% damage reduction, the only 20% wall in the game is Bark Skin. So 20% damage reduction, you get increased healing from your Earth Shield, and it's undispellable. And the effect lasts until all your charges of Earth Shield are gone. So let's say you instantly refresh your Earth Shield and obviously use this ability, you'll have 12 stacks of Earth Shield, and guess what? Your Earth Shield gets removed every 3 seconds or so, or every 4 or 5-ish seconds maybe. So it's going to be a while until this effect actually ends, which is why it could be pretty interesting. So that's kind of what I had in mind for interaction. Again, just as how the lightning bolt talent I was talking about interacting with lightning shield, maybe something could interact with Earth Shield. And of course, this enhances your active Earth Shield. So if you have it on a healer or your other DPS, they will benefit from this effect as well. Pretty interesting. Another one that's also talked about in some cases is actually, and it actually does seem nice, is a passive effect for Maelstrom weapon. So I kind of came up with the name Stone Mending. So Stone Mending, new talent, reduce damage taken by 2% for every Maelstrom weapon spent on healing, surge, or chain heal. Again, passive defensiveness. Passive defensiveness or passive healing has proven to be more potent than actual on-demand defensives and healing. Look at warlocks. Having just passive soul leech and having you know, just passive armor, it makes a pretty big difference. And maybe that could be the case for Enhancement Shaman. So whenever you do heal with healing surge or chain heal, you'll just have 20% damage reduction for most likely 6 seconds, or for 6 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, kind of what the range would probably be if this talent were to be added. But yeah, something like that could be pretty interesting. Just having passive damage reduction, cool. Who doesn't want that? There was also a Torghast power in Shadowlands. It was called Shields of Spirits, I'm pretty sure. Maybe something different. But basically, when your Astral Shift was active, you had a 25% chance to resist spells. Maybe that could be interesting. Maybe that could just be added onto Astral Shift, or maybe even a new defensive entirely. Have a 25% chance to resist spells and resist or dodge attacks, you know? Maybe 8 seconds or 12 second cooldown, 1 minute CD, usable in stuns. Who knows? Maybe doesn't reduce damage, but you have a chance to resist spells and dodge attacks. You know, maybe something like that could be added to Astral Shift, or just a new defensive. Who knows? So that's kind of what I wanted to see with Ethereal Form. But fortunately, Ethereal Form is being removed in 10.1. So any hope of having Ethereal Form actually be good, which it had potential to be amazing, but Blizzard couldn't see it. It's now all gone because it's going to be removed. So very unfortunate, but I kind of want to talk about defensiveness because it's a lost topic. It's most likely never going to happen for Enhancement Shaman, but you always got to try. So let's move on to our next topic. The world of CC has always been rough for Enhancement Shaman, and of course, just like every other expansion, it's never talked about, or it's never actually looked into. So CC for Enhancement Shaman has always been rough. All right, you always had Cap Totem, which has always just been like, there are some abilities that are just Walmart abilities, from other abilities, which is okay. But this one is just like homelessness ability. So Cap Totem, it's the average stun in the game is 4 seconds and usually around a 30-second CD. So let's say Storm Bolt, and the average AoE stun lasts around 4 seconds, and has somewhere around a minute CD. Cap Totem is completely none of that. Has 1 minute CD. It's a totem, which means it's susceptible to totem effects of being one shot. It takes 2 seconds to ramp up, has a pretty short range. Other AoE stuns have a larger range than 8 yards, and lasts for 3 seconds. No stun in the game lasts for 3 seconds. Very unfortunate. So this has always been bad. Now, Guardian's Cudgel made it a bit better. Again, a Torghast power made it so whenever your Capacitator totem was destroyed or faded, basically finishing its effect, it'll place on another Cap Totem. So this was made it a bit better, but it just didn't have the same impact of any other stun in the game. All right, it just had nothing. Your Hex is the worst polymorph-esque ability in the game. A 30-second cooldown. You have complete control of your character when you're in Hex, so you can run into any melee cleave and just die, or not die, but have your Hex be broken, and boom, you're free to cast. Like, you can position yourself however way you want to. It's a 30-second CD. It's unfortunate. As Enhancement Shaman, you can't even get the spell off. Why? Because you're in melee range. You think, what kind of melee is going to sit in your face and cast a CC and not get interrupted? Doesn't make any sense. So, and with the addition of Lightning Lasso, obviously Lightning Lasso is amazing. I don't really have any complaints with it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But other than that, you only got no CC, nothing. So there are certain ways to work around this, maybe. So one of them is Voodoo Mastery. So I kind of changed Voodoo Mastery a bit with a new talent, but this new talent affects old Enhancement Shaman. Back then, Enhancement Shaman used to actually have Hex be instant cast with the Maelstrom weapon. So you had 5 Maelstrom stacks, cool. You can instantly Hex a target. Now, of course, Hex still has the same issues of, again, positioning and, control of your character, but it was instant cast. Pretty great. Now, here's Voodoo Mastery, is what I pretty much done. So Voodoo Mastery, 30-second CD. Hex is now instant cast with the cost of 5 Maelstrom stacks, and now withstands 100% more damage, and the target is slowed by 60%. Lasts 4 seconds. So basically combining Voodoo Mastery and Embezzlement in this one talent, you know. So the Hex obviously being instant cast from 5 Maelstrom stacks, the damage being higher to actually break Hex, so you can't just instantly run in and instantly get it broken. Like, no, you got to kind of stay in the fray for at least a little bit longer to actually, you know, have your Hex be broken. And your movement speed is reduced by X amount, by 60%, maybe a bit smaller than that. So again, it doesn't make it so you can't just have complete control of your character. Like, no, you are still slowed, and your Hex will not break instantly. So that's something I kind of thought could be cool. And again, it has a cooldown, so, you know, 30-second CD, this can happen every 30 seconds. I thought it was pretty cool. Now, obviously, if this were to be added into the game, it would probably have to increase the cooldown, and, you know, maybe the duration could be 5 seconds instead of 4 seconds. I don't know. But yeah, something like that could be pretty interesting. Another one is reworking Cap Totem. So one of the things I find funny in WoW is that people like to talk smack about races not being important, which they're not. Some races don't have as much impact in the game anymore, but a lot of races do. You know, Orc, Human, yeah, they're pretty great. But one of them is Tauren. Tauren, you know, War Stomp, 2-second stun, AoE. People like to say races don't matter, but will get so infuriated when they die in a War Stomp. So I thought maybe Cap Totem can kind of have that effect. So I came up with a new talent, Thundering Hammers, 30-second CD. Instantly smash the ground with a lightning hammer, stunning all enemies within an 8-yard radius for 2.5 seconds. Leaves an electrical current at the location. Enemies will be stunned again for half the duration after 2 seconds. So something like that. Instant cast, it lasts for, you know, 2.5 seconds. It's a 30-second CD, which means it's pretty short, and it leaves an electrical current. So anybody who's stuck in that zone will be stunned again after for half the duration. So you get Thundering Hammer, they get stunned, and they wait the duration, they Sundering, they get stunned again, something like that. Obviously it's not as amazing because, again, Enhancement Shaman doesn't have a real stun. Other classes can just Stormbolt or Hodge or, you know, Bash, and then they can just pop their cooldowns. But Enhancement Shaman, like, you can't do that with something like Cap Totem. You can't do that with something like Lightning Lasso. And I don't think you ever will be able to do that. So at least have some different iteration or some different, you know, effects, like Thundering Hammer, to kind of break the ice a little bit. Another talent that I made to basically counteract what I literally just said, to actually be, you can stun a target and actually pop CDs into that stun, is a new talent called Stone Crush. So Stone Crush, 1-minute CD. Summon a stone-formed hand to crush your opponent for 4 seconds, sundering their armor by 10%. For each second they remain stunned, for each second they remain stunned. Sorry, I kind of messed up there. If your Stone Crush is dispelled, immediately deal XXX damage to the target. So something like that could be interesting. 1-minute CD, lasts for 4 seconds, cool. And the interaction I kind of had in mind with that would be sundering their armor. Obviously, your armor doesn't have as much impact in WoW today, but if your armor does for some reason get broken or, you know, get damaged in some way, do it be bypass armor type abilities, it's pretty dangerous, which is what makes Ascendance so dangerous. So I kind of thought that'd be pretty cool to actually interact that with the stun. So they're constantly getting their armor sundered every second, which means when I pop my cooldowns, their armor's getting broken every second within that stun. They can't do anything, and that's where I can really lay in some pretty good damage on the target. And if it's dispelled, guess what? They'll take some good damage, maybe even be slowed after that as well. I don't know, but something like Stone Crush could be pretty interesting, and that I thought would be pretty nice. So yeah, CC, obviously, again, all of these are long shots. That's the thing. Like, again, Blizzard is very strict on what they want Enhancement Shamans to be, so every one of these is long shots, all right? Like, very little possibility that they'll ever be even looked into. But you know what? You gotta try. So yeah, let's move on to our next topic. Mobility is another one of the many downsides Enhancement Shaman has. Mobility is obviously a little bit better in today's world, as you have stuff like Static Field Totem, Earth Grab Totem, your shocks are back. It's a little bit better nowadays, but you know, in terms of anti-mobility, you also have for a lunge, you can take easily, you have Pack Spirit, it's cool and all, but with what I'm about to talk about, it's going to be pretty minor mobility, because I don't really have a problem with having your one kind of ticket, you know, gap closer, you know, root cleanse. But there are certain stuff to make at least Enhancement Shaman just feel better overall in terms of, you know, how you can move and maneuver around Arena. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the idea between Gust of Wind and Spirit Walk. Spirit Walk is obviously amazing. 1-minute CD. It's obviously longer than any other ability like this. Tiger's Lust or freedom, but it's still good. You can get out of cleanse, you can get out of roots and everything. Movement speed increase, cool. But Gust of Wind is just such a weird ability. Back then it was amazing, but back then not everybody had gap closes, not everybody had, you know, movement speed increases, so this was a way better. But now everybody has roots in some way or form, everybody has a gap closer, everybody has, you know, increased movement speed, and Gust of Wind is just completely outdated. 30-second cooldown launches you forward just a tad bit. Like this little leap, it's far, it's pretty damn far, but there's nothing to gain from Gust of Wind. It's just an outdated ability, simply. So what can you do to make this better? There are other abilities like this that are just 10 times more valuable. Disengage for hunters removes roots and snares and gives you movement speed increase. Wild Charge for druids has the same effect, except your Wild Charge when you're in travel form launches you farther, and you can use it in other forms to grant benefits. Wild Charge when you're in bear form to root the target. Wild Charge in cat form to leap behind the target. Wild Charge in no form to fly towards the target. Like, it's way more beneficial than something like Gust of Wind. So what can you do to make Gust of Wind better? Well, what I kind of always thought would be the difference between Spirit Walk and Gust of Wind would be the Tiger's Dash compared to Dash for druids. Dash for druids is the main sprint, so 2-minute cooldown, 60% movement speed for like what, 12 seconds. And then Tiger's Dash is a 45-second cooldown with 200% increased movement speed for decaying over time for like what, 5 seconds or so. That's what I thought that Gust of Wind could probably be. So Gust of Wind, make it so, hey, you get 150% increased movement speed, but decreases over time. So when you land, you get lots of movement speed, but it'll decrease over time. So that's what I thought could be pretty cool between just having Gust of Wind and Spirit Walk, because the whole point of these talent nodes is to make it is completely up to player choice. Choose one or the other. What are you willing to give up, and what are you willing to gain? But for this, like, I'm not really giving up anything unless I just go into Gust of Wind. Like, I gain nothing but benefit from choosing Spirit Walk, and I gain no benefit from Gust of Wind. So something like that could be pretty interesting. Other ways about this could be reducing the cooldown of Gust of Wind. If Gust of Wind, which is literally like a 10-second cooldown, I probably would take it. Just constantly having a leap every 10 seconds could be pretty nice. But that's highly unlikely, and honestly, I don't think they're going to change Gust of Wind at all, which is very unfortunate, but just a shot in the dark. A new talent could be that, you know, again, interaction with Flurry. Flurry, attack speed increased by 15%. I mean, again, attack speed is like something so minimal in today's world. Like, yeah, you get win for your procs and stuff like that, you know, maybe a bit more, but like, it's not anything that's like you gotta go full send on. Now, maybe there could be a new talent for this. So I came up with Spirit of the Winds, a new talent. Your auto attacks, while affected by Flurry, have a chance to increase your movement speed by 5%, stacking up 4 times, constantly having movement speed. You have a Root Cleanse, you have a Feral Lunge, great and all, but like even when you have those, again, those are your 1 tickets, maybe just in the middle, have some movement speed increases, constantly. That could be pretty cool. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is Ghost Wolf. Ghost Wolf is such like a awkward ability nowadays. Back then, again, it was pretty cool. Not everybody had gap closes, not everybody had movement speed increases, not everybody had slows. So I could just instantly go in Ghost Wolf and cool, I have just movement speed increase. Amazing. Now, unfortunately, nowadays, it's like there's no reason to be in Ghost Wolf. You can't do anything in Ghost Wolf. You have Spirit Wolf, which is great and all. You know, 20% damage reduction, 20% movement speed, great, cool. But like when I'm sitting in Ghost Wolf, I'm not doing anything. I can't do anything. You know? I just can't do anything. If I'm running towards the caster, maybe, very maybe. If I'm running towards the caster who's just playing open field, then maybe I stay in Ghost Wolf and charge this guy. You know, I get movement speed increase and damage reduction, cool. If I'm getting trained by melee, I could just stay in Ghost Wolf, but guess what? When I'm just sitting in Ghost Wolf, I'm not doing damage. I'm not building up Maelstrom weapon, so I'm not able to heal. Very unfortunate. So what can you really do to make Ghost Wolf better? There's honestly not really much to do, because it's just one of those abilities that just has always, it's just always had an awkward place. You know, at least ever since WoW started to become more fast-paced and everything. So what I kind of thought would be to have the interactions with Ghost Wolf, maybe, because again, there's nothing to do in Ghost Wolf. I can't press Storm Strike while I'm in Ghost Wolf, nothing. Maybe if like something like Spirit Walk or or the movement speed of Ghost Wolf. Like, you know, there's a talent for druids that makes it so whenever you're in cat form, whenever you leave cat form, you retain the 40% movement speed from cat form for like 3 seconds. Maybe that could be something for Ghost Wolf. Whenever you leave Ghost Wolf, you retain Spirit Wolf stacks for an extra like 4 seconds. Or for Thunderous Pause, whenever you hop out of Ghost Wolf, you retain at 25% movement speed for you know, for 4 seconds after you leave Ghost Wolf. Maybe something like that could be cool. But another thing I kind of thought about would be interaction. So Feral Lunge, you literally turn into a Ghost Wolf, you leap at the target, and you turn into a Ghost Wolf. All right, looks cool, looks pretty amazing. Or in my case, a Spirit Raptor. Maybe that could be different. Maybe that can have some interaction, possibly. So I kind of came up with a new talent. I forgot I didn't put a name on it, so I'm just going to kind of read the talent here, but maybe this could be interesting. So using Feral Lunge while in Ghost Wolf increases the damage of your Feral Lunge by 400% and increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds while targeting the enemy. Something like that could be pretty cool. Make sure you hop in Ghost Wolf before your Feral Lunge, and then you get 400% increased damage on your Feral Lunge, so it actually doesn't do 900 damage. And actually maybe does something considerable damage, you know. And guess what? You get 30% increased movement speed so long as you're targeting this target. Could be interesting, maybe. Or maybe even have a different effect. When you use Feral Lunge while in Ghost Wolf form, you reduce the cooldown of Feral Lunge by 15 seconds. Maybe something like that. I don't know. But just make Ghost Wolf have some bit of interaction. Because just sitting in Ghost Wolf, it's just awkward. Like, I can't, again, I'm just cool. I look cool, but I can't do anything in this form. Nothing. And it's even purgeable as well. So there's nothing to do. Maybe. I don't know. Hopefully there's some interaction with Ghost Wolf in the future. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about is this godforsaken ability, Winds of Valakir. It's horrible. Any 2 talent point nodes should have some crazy benefits for 2 talent points. 2 talent points are very scarce, all right? We like our 2 talent points, but we don't like spending them on 2 talent point nodes unless they actually have good benefits, like let's say Focused Insight. So Winds of Valakir, increase the movement speed of Ghost Wolf by 10%, and when you have 3 or more totems active, your movement speed is increased by 15%. This is just so bad. I don't care about the movement speed for Ghost Wolf. I only care about having Spirit Wolf for the damage reduction, and I only care about not being slowed beyond 100%. That's what I care about. I don't care about just having movement speed increase from Ghost Wolf. I don't care about that. Now, how could you change this to make this a bit better? Well, there are some interesting solutions. So it really usually comes down to the make just your movement speed increase just by 10%. Maybe that could be cool. You don't have to be in Ghost Wolf, just your overall movement speed could be increased by 10%. But the secondary effect is what I want to talk about. So instead of having it be you need 3 totems in order to get the 15% increased movement speed, maybe it could be a bit different. So it can be reworked to increase movement speed by 5% per totem active, and having at least 3 totems out increases the movement speed by 30% for you and your 3 closest allies. Again, enhancing, improvement, buffing my team, buffing my allies. That concept has been away from WoW forever. All right, giving them benefits. Very amazing. That could be pretty interesting. Or how about we just literally scrap this entire idea of movement speed for Winds of Valakir? How about you make it so, this is something that is talked about a bit between Enhancement Shamans, is make Winds of Valakir, make this increase the range of your melee attacks by 5 yards. So your Storm Strikes, your Wind Fury, your Auto Attacks, your Crash Lightning, your Ice Strikes could be pretty interesting to see. But obviously, something like that, long shot. But again, all these are just ideas that BigTuna came up with because they sounded cool. All right. So yeah, and again, all this, it's not much to ask for, but it's just something that could be interesting for Enhancement Shaman. All right, just these passive movement speed increases, the way it interacts with each other, like, I don't know, it's something that I thought could be pretty cool. But let's move on to our next topic. Probably the topic I'm gonna talk about the most and push the most, and that is totems. Totems are amazing for Enhancement Shaman. It's what makes Shaman shamans. These cool little totems, all right, different for each race, having benefits, amazing. But in recent times, they're just simply outdated for numerous reasons. The counterplay of just them being one tap in the past is now just a detriment in today's world. So how do you make totems better? Alright, totems themselves have the same issue of being one tap, and the totem effects of certain totems are just very lackluster. So what can you do to improve this? Well, one solution in terms of their survivability is make them tankier. Instead of just them being literally 1% HP, maybe have them be 15 to 10% of the caster's HP. That's like around like 40k. It's like around 40k, 60k HP in current HP pools, just to make totems not one hit. Like Healing Tide totem for Resto Shaman it's pretty chonky. Like you gotta use a spender, or you gotta use an actual ability to actually kill the totem. It's pretty chonky. All right, that's cool. Of course, it still dies, but it at least doesn't die when you just look at the totem. All right, back then it was different. Back then, not everybody had an ability they could use to kill a totem. What are you gonna do? I have Wind Fury totem out. I have Strength of Earth totem out. I have my Resistance totems out. Are you really gonna sit there and just cast Shadow Bolt on all my totems just to get rid of them? Is that really that important to you? Are you gonna sit there and use Mortal Strike, your biggest damage spent ability, to get rid of my totems? Is that really that threatening to you? It benefits me greatly, and I can constantly place on these totems, but you can't constantly kill them, because guess what? You're not killing me if you're doing that. So I can play this game all day, but obviously nowadays every class has a way to kill totems now. Every class, so it's unfortunate. So make totems have a higher HP pool, or probably the one that I think could be the best, which is actually make totems for the first 3 seconds have invulnerability. So your grounding totem, your static field totem, your earthbind totem. Because the problem with having totems is that you instantly get them out and you get no benefit from them. Especially totems that have a cooldown, like all your totems. So for the first 3 seconds, have all your totems be invulnerable. So at least for 3 seconds, you can get benefit. So when I do my static field port, it's not instantly killed. When I place on my grounding totem, it's not instantly killed, and it actually just will not be killed with this new effect. If I place on my Earth Grab totem, people can't kill it before the actual pulse of my Earth Grab totem to root the targets is activated. You know? Something like that could be pretty cool. When I place on Healing Tide totem, at least I'll get like a few ticks of Healing Tide totem before it gets destroyed. Something like that could be pretty cool. And honestly, that's what I would really like to see. Now, there are other totems I kind of want to talk about, other totems that were just in the game before that were pretty cool. Stone Bulwark totem was pretty cool. Another one of those totems and one of those effects that, again, it just plays into the idea of team support. Stone Bulwark totem was a totem on a minute CD, I'm pretty sure, a minute and a half, and it would basically shield you. I think it shielded you. I don't know if it shielded the allies, but maybe they can rework that to shield allies instead, or shield allies with you. And basically, it'd give you like a absorb shield, pretty much absorbing the same amount as like a powered shield. And every 5 seconds it'll refresh that shield if you have it, or again give you a new shield if you don't have a shield currently. Something like that could be pretty cool. I would like to see that be returned. I personally love Stone Bulwark totem, but again, nothing too, you know, I'm not going to push that at all. But Call the Elements, or Totem Recall, is something that I really wish was brought back. So Call the Elements, I'm pretty sure that's what it originally was called, basically recalled all of your totems instead of just one totem. Pretty damn cool. All right, in today's world, it's like my totems right now, they have benefits, like they're amazing, but they're also not amazing. Like it doesn't change the game as much as you would think totems would change the game, especially being a huge part of our toolkit. Now, recalling all of our totems could be the actual, upside of everything. If anything, it makes more sense to have totems, to have old Call of the Elements be present Call of the Elements instead of old, because old Call of the Elements, again, your totems are actually useful and impactful. So having old Call of the Elements be in today's world, it makes more sense since your totems aren't even that impressive. So having all your totems be recalled, your static field totem, your tremor totem, your grinding totem, your skyfree totem, again, could be nice to see. And I really wish, again, it's another one of those abilities that my boomer brain just activates. It's like, damn, I really wish this was how it was back then. All right. Now, also something I kind of want to see with totems is maybe the addition of adding Totem Mastery back. The Totem Mastery was a talent in BFA, that basically planted 4 totems. It was cool because again, it filled the fantasy of having totems out and having totems be useful, but it had no cooldown, so you can constantly place on these totems, and boom, you have totems out. And it benefited you in numerous ways. So 1 totem increased flame shock damage, 1 totem increased your haste by like 2%, 1 totem increased your Maelstrom generation, and another totem I think increased lightning bolt damage, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it sucked in the sense of like its benefits weren't as great, but maybe they can have that, and maybe they can make that a bit better. So I kind of came up with different effects for these totems. So totem mastery, but reworked. So your first totem that we place down is resonance totem. Increase the effectiveness of Maelstrom weapon by 1% per stack. Again, just passive Maelstrom weapon damage, pretty cool. All right. Your next totem, echoing totem. Remember that your spells and abilities have a chance to echo themselves for 25% of their effectiveness. Again, I talked about echo the elements in the beginning of the video because I thought I think it's a really good ability. You know, it was a great ability back then. So maybe this as a totem could be pretty cool. All right. Tailwind totem, increase you and 2 other allies haste by 3%. Again, team benefits. And then the last one, wind for your totem. You and your allies benefit from wind for your weapon. Again, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. It's literally called Wind Fury Totem, but it doesn't give my allies Wind Fury. It just gives them another attack. Wind Fury, again, you see here, a chance to trigger 3 extra attacks. Whereas Wind Fury Weapon does not do that. It's just 1 extra attack. Very sad, very unfortunate. I really wish it actually gave my allies Wind Fury, but it does not. All right, it does not do that anymore, which is very unfortunate. So that's kind of what I wanted to see be added back. Just like the way Wind Fury Totem works now, it has no cooldown. You can constantly place it whenever you want. The Totem Mastery would be the same way. It has no cooldown. You can place it whenever I want. You want to kill my totems? Literally, it's your fault because I can just constantly place them whenever I want to. I'll have haste. I'll have damage on my Maelstrom weapon. I'll have, you know, Wind Fury Totem active. I'll have the echoing totem active. Like, it's amazing. So that's something I kind of wished was added back because I really love Totem Mastery, but obviously reworked a bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I had to say about totems. Now let's move on to our next topic. This one's kind of memey. It's kind of more of fun ideas, but also just actual viability. And this is the idea of weapon imbues. So I do want to push this a bit. Weapon imbues nowadays have very little impact on your game. It's the same thing with rogue poisons. There's no variety. If there's variety, it'd be different, but there's no variety. You should have variety on what weapon imbues you want to have. Back then, you had more variety. You had Flame Tongue weapon, you had Rock Biter weapon, you had Wind Fury weapon, you had Frostbrand weapon. You had stuff to choose from. Whereas nowadays, you can't do that. You can't. There's only Flame Tongue and Wind Fury weapon. Very sad. And for rogues, you only really use like what, crippling poison and wound poison. You don't use your other poisons, which is sad. And again, variety, actual variety in the sense of each weapon imbue can be used in different scenarios. I really wish was added back in the game. Now I kind of came up with just weapon imbues myself, but I want to talk about one, which is the 2 we have, which is Wind Fury weapon. So honestly, the way they buffed Wind Fury weapon in 10.1 was buffing the damage Wind Fury by 50% and nerfing Forceful Winds by 20% per stack. I thought, honestly, I thought Forceful Winds, what I wanted to see was Forceful Winds be back to how it was before. Forceful Winds basically increase the damage of your Wind Fury weapon by 80% per stack. That's what I wanted to see, but unfortunately we're not getting that, so I gotta scrap the idea. So Flame Tongue is kind of what I talk about. Flame Tongue is just so useless. It's always been useless. Like, it does 500 damage per swing. 500 damage per swing. It's nothing. Even when you run double Flame Tongue for your lava build, it doesn't do anything. It's no impact at all. Because at least Wind Fury weapon, no matter what happens, Wind Fury weapon has benefit. Whether you run Lava Lash build or not, if you have Wind Fury, it's gonna proc Maelstrom weapon, no matter what. And of course, it's just extra damage. Whereas Flame Tongue weapon has no benefits. Unless you have Lava build, no benefits. So maybe they can rework this, all right, in certain ways. So this one I kind of came up with just for the sake of fun. I don't see it actually being of any importance, but I kind of came up with this just for fun. So Flame Tongue weapon rework. All right, either A, just buff the damage it does, or B, rework how the way it works. So I came up with Flame Tongue Rework. So attacks with Flame Tongue weapon have a chance to launch a fireball at the target, instantly dealing 6 seconds worth of Flame Shock damage and instantly refreshing the duration on your Flame Shock. Alright, to at least have some interaction with Flame Shock, as Flame Shock is just an ability that every class has, or every spec has. And no matter what build you run, you pretty much can and will apply Flame Shock whenever you need to. So maybe Flame Tongue weapon work with Flame Shock. I don't know. But what I want to talk about is actually having multiple imbues. Earth Living Weapon imbue being brought back for all specs. Enhanced Shaman used to have access to Earth Living Weapon. So did Elemental, I'm pretty sure. Alright. So an Earth Living Weapon, I mean, you guys know it is a whenever you heal, your heals have a chance to apply a hot to the target for like what pretty sure like percentage of the actual healing done, maybe, unless I'm thinking of another talent, but it's something like that. All right, pretty cool. Again, just having variety. So when I need survivability, cool, I'll choose Earth Living Weapon. But I also came up with other weapon imbues. So let's kind of go down the list here. So one is probably personally my favorite, and this one is just completely fun. Like I just the only thought I minded this was just having it for fun, which is Crackling Fire Lightning imbue. So your attacks have a chance to arch red lightning at targets affected by your Flame Shock. Each time this procs, gain a stack of Crackling Flame up to 5 stacks. Every stack increases the damage of your next Lightning Bolt by 10% and converts Lightning Bolt to Crackling Red Lightning, dealing fire nature damage dealing fire nature damage, 20% increased damage to targets affected by your Flame Shock. So this is literally just for fun. Like imagine not getting excited when you hear crackling, flaming lightning. Lightning Bolt looks cool, but having red fire in there looks even better. And of course the interaction of having it be affected by Flame Shock could be interesting. Now other weapon imbues I came up with Frozen Fury. Again, these are just kind of like basically advanced versions, quote unquote, of existing weapon imbues in the past. So Frozen Fury. Your auto attacks have a chance to slow the target by a 10% for 8 seconds, stacking up 3 times. Frost Shock damage is increased by 20% and critical strikes with Frost Shock root the target in place for 3 seconds. Again, having constant slows on the target, also increasing the damage of Frost Shock, so of course paired well with your Ice Strike and your Hailstorm. But also rooting the target for 3 seconds. That idea comes from Frozen Power, which used to be a talent, making it so I'm pretty sure it was your Frost Shock critical strikes rooting the target for 6 seconds. Pretty sure it's your critical strikes. It wouldn't make sense if it was just normal Frost Shock, but yeah. All right, something like that could be pretty interesting. And then the last one we have Boulder Fist. So Boulder Fist increase the damage of all physical abilities by 5%, 5 or 10%. Your auto attacks have a chance to increase your armor by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up 3 times. So you get physical damage increased, so your Storm Strike damage will be increased, and your Feral Spirits be increased, your Stun Ring be increased, your Wind Fury Weapon be increased, and you get armor from your auto attacks. Could be pretty cool. Alright, again, variety. Having just access to more weapon imbues to, again, use for certain matchups is something I would love to see. Same thing with Rogue Poisons, alright? Hopefully they feel the same. But you know what? It's a long shot, just like everything else I'm talking about, but let's move on to our next topic. Another idea I want to talk about is Maelstrom Weapon. There's not a whole lot to spend Maelstrom Weapon on. You have obviously Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Elemental Blast, but I mean, again, like I said, talked about before, Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have little to no impact on your gameplay, and you only spend it on Elemental Blast and Healing Surge. Maybe there could be a different way to actually spend Maelstrom Weapon on. Again, the name of the class, Enhancement, to constantly improve. So maybe that could be in the form of a talent. So I came up with a talent called Infusion of Elements. 12-second CD, spend 5 Maelstrom Weapon to gain 1 of 5 elemental attunements. This is kind of like my version of like a combo point roll the bones type ability. Roll the bones for Outlaw Rogue is personally one of my favorite abilities in the game, just because it looks cool and just the interaction that it has with your rotation is fun. I love it. So this talent, Infusion of Elements, is something I kind of came up with. So your first elemental attunement is Raging Storms. Stormbringer and Wind Fury have a 50% chance to trigger, or 50% increased chance to trigger. Could be interesting. Your Wind Fury procs are going to proc even more, which means your Forceful Winds are going to build up even higher, and again, that's just more damage. Your second elemental attunement is Elemental Devastation. Your Maelstrom Spenders deal 15% increased damage. Again, Spenders hitting harder. We love that. Your third elemental attunement, your shock spells deal Primal Shock. Your shock spells deal 20% increased damage and spread to 3 nearby targets and have double the duration. Again, having your shocks be in that rotation instead of just being filler abilities for who cares is cool to see them have value other than just being filler abilities. Love to see that. Your 4th elemental attunement, Wrath of the Elements. All physical damage now does another 25% damage as elemental damage. Again, I talked about that with Storm Blast. Having it make it so your Stormbringer Storm Strikes deal 50% additional damage as elemental damage. So that's where this idea comes from. You know, having your all your physical damage deal additional 25% damage as elemental damage. Elemental damage is great. Any damage that combines multiple spell schools is great. So elemental damage, chaos damage, pretty damn cool. Now your 5th elemental attunement is your Flooding Purity. Increase your healing done by 10% and 30% of all healing received is stored. Heal for all the healing stored after your elemental attunement ends. Could be pretty cool. Alright, something like that could be just nice, having constantly buffing yourself every 12 seconds, you know, with 5 Maelstrom stacks, and I thought that could be pretty cool. Another way for this would be to actually have this, but again, benefit the team, interaction, team benefits. That's what I want to see with Enhancement Shaman. So this is basically the same way. It works the same way as Infusion of Elements, but again, it affects your team. So new talent, Elemental Attunement. Unleash the power of all the elements to you and 2 other party members for 15 seconds. Each element grants a different effect. So fire. Your spells and melee swings burn the target and have a chance to erupt with flames, increasing your damage done by 15%, decreasing by 1% every second. Again, just a bit of extra damage increase. All right, it'll decrease, so you got to kind of get whatever damage you want quick. But yeah, could be pretty cool. Lightning. Your spells and attacks have a chance to charge you with lightning, increasing your haste by 3% for 4 seconds. Again, could be cool. Who doesn't love haste? Again, with a lot of these abilities, you can already tell I'm a sucker for haste. I love haste. It's my favorite stat in the game. Your third element, which is Earth. Your spells and attacks have a chance to grant you 5% damage reduction, stacking up 3 times. So again, just having 15% damage reduction, pretty cool. Your Water Attunement. So your spells and attacks have a high chance to heal all party members for 15% of the damage and healing done, and have a chance to cause a downpour of water on the lowest HP target, granting them 10% increased healing received. Again, this is all your targets. So this is like 2 of your party members. So your party members will constantly be healing just other allies. Could be interesting to see. All right, and Frost. Attacks have a chance to summon a lesser frost elemental to damage your opponents and increase the effectiveness of all slows on the target by 10%. All slows on the target. So your frost shock will be increased, hamstring will be increased, hand of hindrance will be increased, disable will be increased. Alright, pretty cool. Crippling poison will be increased. Alright. Again, something we haven't seen before. And then your last one be wind. Increase your dodge chance by 10% and increase movement speed by 30%. Who doesn't like dodge chance and who doesn't like movement speed increase? Alright, so that's kind of what I kind of want to see for Maelstrom Weapon, to have more variety on what you can actually spend that Maelstrom Weapon on. So pretty cool. Thought it was amazing. It could be the worst idea ever that you've ever heard of, but you know what? We'll rock with it. And you're probably wondering how I went this long without bringing this topic up, but you know what? I'm getting to it right now, and that is the idea of having 2-handed Enhancement Shaman back. It's something that we've been asking for. Even if it sucks, it'll still be a nice playstyle. But obviously they would have to do it right, because when they add classes to have multiple weapons, so let's say Fury Warrior, Single-Minded Fury, and Titan's Grip Fury, Frost DK, 2-handed Frost DK, and Dual Wield DK, it's pretty much very specific on what is actually better. And of course, that is 2-handers being just way better. So 2-handed Frost being better and 2-handed Fury being way better. Just for the stats and just how hard 2-handers hit is what makes a lot of these interactions just fail. So they don't know what to do with the other aspect of weaponry that you can pick for your class. Now, obviously, it'd be a bit different for Enhancement Shaman if you do it right. So for Enhancement Shaman, your 2-hander, it would probably have it so where like all physical damage you deal with the 2-hander does 15% increased damage, but of course it's going to be slower. So you're not going to get as many Windfear procs, and you're not going to get as much Stormbringer procs. And of course, with Enhancement Shaman nowadays, consistency is key. So obviously, if you have 2-handers or 2-handed Enhancement Shaman, it's just going to be for like just having big damage but not a lot of consistency, whereas you have dual wielding consistency but not a whole lot of damage. So something like that could be pretty cool to see for Enhancement Shaman, but again, it's a long shot, so you know what, hopefully that shot could be made. And yeah, let's talk about something else. And our last topic is honor talents. This is something that every class faces. This is just a whole PvP thing, and that is honor talents just being really whack. There are only 4 honor talents that, again, Enhancement Shaman just uses, much like every other class. That is Grounded Totem, Rise of Lightning, Static Field Totem, and Swelling Waves when you're running healing build. But other than that, you don't really use anything else. So some of these talents are actually really good. Traveling Storm is like, I don't really know what they can do to make Traveling Storms better. I'm pretty sure it's just one of those abilities that's just there. It makes Thunderstorm. It can catch people off guard to make it so, again, your Thunderstorm just knocks people away from whoever you're targeting. So if you're targeting your Holy Paladin, then yeah, guess what? You can use Thunderstorm on that target. It's cool. It's fun. I kind of wish this was baseline. Because again, thunderstorms and lightning storms can happen anywhere, at any time. So could be interesting. A bit of a realism. Tidebringer doesn't make sense why this is here, and it's getting removed in 10.1, so I'm not going to talk about that. Season Winds, it's getting changed in 10.1, so it's going to be 18% damage reduction, or sorry, 15% damage reduction for 18 seconds, and now stacks up 3 times. This could be amazing. Swelling Waves, again, I really wish this was affected by Chain Heal as well. Spectral Recovery is okay. The movement speed is cool, whatever, but again, the 3% health every 2 seconds, great, but I mean, it's just not worth taking over these talents, unless it's worked like Pack Spirit in BFA, where whenever you are in Ghost Whip, you just heal for X amount for every 0.9 seconds, then maybe, but it's not there anymore. Unleashed Shield is great, especially with the addition of having Water Shield for Enhancement Shaman. Yes, Enhancement Shaman is getting Water Shield, so you can now make the plays with Water Shield as Enhancement Shaman. You know, that just big MS, so long as people stand in your Water Shield, could be amazing. Counteract Totem, I don't know how to feel about Counteract Totem. It's an idiot check ability. So for stupid people, Counteract Totem is good, but for smart people, you don't get any value from Counteract Totem at all. Alright, and it just works weird. So let's say Destruction Warlock is hitting you for 150k Chaos Bolts. It says it'll deal 100% of the damage directly to the attacker, but it'll deal that damage over time. So if you get hit by 100k Chaos Bolt or 150k Chaos Bolt, it's gonna deal like max 40k damage over time, basically, until it reaches 150k of that Chaos Bolt. So maybe this could be differently. Maybe this could be like a different totem. All right, so maybe when you plop down Counteract Totem, it stores like 50% or like 25% of the damage dealt to all allies within the 20 yards of the totem. And then once the totem is destroyed or it fades away, it'll just deal all the damage, you know, back to those attackers. That could be interesting. But obviously, I don't really think that's really in mind. I think they just think that Counteract Totem, it's a meme talent, which is why it just won't ever get buffed. But it's unfortunate. Skyfear Totem, it's great and all, but I mean, again, just it doesn't work well as a Enhancement Shaman unless you're running Lava Lash build. It doesn't really work well. Ethereal Form, again, I really wish this had potential. Even if they kept the immunity of it, maybe make it so you can actually cast spells and remove the movement speed reduction on it. You can cast Healing Surge, you can cast Hex, you can cast Pack Spirit, you can cast like all your totems, but you can't attack. So I really wish this had potential. And again, this could be what I talked about earlier, about the Torghast power Spirit Shell, which made it so, or something like that made it so your Astral Shift reduces has a 25% chance to resist spells. So maybe that could be Ethereal Form. All right, give you a 25% chance to resist spells and 25% chance to dodge attacks. So I don't know, maybe, but I mean, it's being removed completely, so it just doesn't matter at this point. And Thunder Charge, I personally love Thunder Charge. I think it's a great ability. It works well with Enhancement Shaman because, again, you have all your abilities are on cooldown, so it literally this is like the name of the game for Enhancement Shaman. But it just, you can't. There's just no world you can take it. No world. I honestly would love this if this was literally Blessing Bottom, because it is Blessing Bottom for Holy Paladins, but it's just less duration. So if this lasts like 20 seconds or like Again, like Blessing of Autumn, 30 seconds. I would run this every single time. I love this ability. And Shamanism, there's no really complaints with Shamanism. It's just, again, the fact that you can't run it. Like, these talents are too viable. Your Ride the Lightning is always going to be your top damage. And I really wish Ride the Lightning was actually affected by like certain abilities, but it just really isn't. I also wish the Lightning Bolt from the secondary effect of your Ride the Lightning. So you conjure bolts of lightning up to 2 targets for those enemies within 40 yards, dealing 40k damage. I really wish that was different because you don't even get that effect off literally 90% of the time. So maybe they can rework that just a bit. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, auto talents are just weird just because, again, you're locked into certain talents, and just some of the talents you have are just kind of memey. Like, they're not really meant to be good. They're just meant for lulz, which is cool and all, but I mean, it's also kind of not when I kind of want to like take the game seriously. Sometimes when I actually do, which is very, very little. But yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, it's a PvP thing, and until PvP gets fixed, this is going to be the same problem. So no really reason to talk about it. But yeah, that's pretty much the video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. If you have any of your own ideas, or maybe you liked something that I said, leave it in the comments. All right, we as Enhancement Shamans, I've got to push the idea of Enhancement Shamans finally rising up to be, something what we always wanted to see Enhancement Shamans be. I'm always constantly trying to come up with ideas for Enhancement Shaman rework about anything damage, healing, totems, or just, again, new and refreshing spells that could be, actually impactful to Enhancement Shaman. I'm always kind of coming up with ideas, but you know what? Hopefully you all have your own ideas and have your own idealistic shaman form. So hopefully Blizzard can hear that voice and hear that idea and maybe make something of it. But guys, hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Links in the description if you want to see more BigTuna. And of course, you always got to look towards the sunset because it is always beautiful and has been exceptionally beautiful in recent times. But hopefully you all had a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next live. Peace.